Before everything got started, there was a major accident on the highway 2 years ago. Our hero got into a car crash during a family trip. After that, he just woke up in a completely different world. And with that, he ended up becoming a hero to save that place. Then he completed the mission the gods had given him. As a reward, he asked to be able to visit this world whenever he wanted. To him, that other world was a very welcoming place, and it gave him a sense of nostalgia and belonging. But in reality, all that was left was the scene of the crash. He wakes up in a hospital all bandaged up and injured. Apparently, only he and his brother survived the tragedy. Then we see the two brothers at their parents' funeral. Whenever he needed some comfort or to escape reality, he would return to the other world to fight a battle or two, or even 3 just to forget his problems. He visited the other world whenever he needed to, and there he faced all sorts of monsters. And on each of these visits, he fulfilled the requests the gods made of him. That's how our hero became the gods' contractor for that place. After the battle, Jung-won sits on the monster's head to rest. Just then, an old man appears praising his fast and precise fighting style. He also mentions that the protagonist's fighting style was very clean. With that, the side character asks if that wasn't his motto. The old man then calls him Contractor Jung-won, revealing our hero's name. The protagonist swings his feet, showing a certain boredom. Jung-won comments that he was told a few things about the mission. He explains that the situation got pretty messy during the fight. The old man in the white suit agrees with him, saying it sure looks like it. Right after, the man asks if he'll want money as payment again. But our hero surprises everyone by saying no. Jung-won then reveals that for this job, the payment would be something else. The protagonist reveals that the payment he wants this time is his retirement. At this, the man in the white suit is surprised and asks the reason for this decision. Jung-won explains that his brother is a teenager now, and he needs to look after him. Hearing this, the old-timer simply says he understands the situation. Our hero is surprised he accepted his request so easily. The man says it's a family matter and that they'll find other heroes. Grateful, Jung-won says his goodbyes and thanks them for everything they've done for him. 1 month later, we see the protagonist crashed out on his couch at home. His brother arrives with food in a takeout container and tells him to come eat. But he stays lying on the couch scrolling on his phone, not paying attention. Then his brother asks if he's studying and if he's decided on a career path yet. He remembers 2 years ago when his brother was questioning him about college, and it was right after that he became a hero in another world following the accident. He recalls the moment he woke up in the hospital and found out about his family. In that instant, he felt like his world was falling apart. He remembered how much he wanted to go back and feel that sense of freedom again. He just wanted to feel like a hero at least one more time. But the gods didn't answer his calls. So Jung-won wonders why this happened, and why he can smell the other world on his brother. With that, he starts to wonder if his brother has also visited the other world. He's shocked, thinking if his brother had been there for the past 2 years. His brother snaps him out of his thoughts and he plays it cool, saying it's nothing. Jung-won, our hero, calls his brother Yoon and says it's not about studying. He tells Yoon to find what he wants to do. The perspective shifts to Yoon, the brother, who thinks, what does he want me to do? Jung-won doesn't hear his brother's thoughts and asks what it is. At this, Yoon seems irritated and asks what he has been doing for the past 2 years. Yoon makes a direct accusation and asks where Jung-won was when he needed him. Jung-won's mind is shown and he says, I was living in another world. Jung-won then grabs his jacket from the chair to leave. He gets up and says, that's why I'm trying now. The younger brother just watches him leave the table. With that, Yoon tells him to clean up the food because it's attracting bugs. The protagonist then asks what he's trying to do. He's confused as he sees Yoon grabbing the jacket he just took off. The protagonist stares at his brother with a serious expression, but Yoon ignores the question and goes to wash the dishes in the sink. Jung-won realizes the smell of the other world gets stronger when Yoon wears those clothes. With this in mind, our hero decides he needs to check out this suspicion. The brother's hoodie is left lying on the chair, and right after the jacket disappears from the chair, Yoon sees Jung-won wearing the jacket and asks where he's going. Our hero believes that if he wears the clothes, they'll mistake him for Yoon and let him in. With a determined look, he realizes he can finally go back to that world. Yoon is still on the couch scrolling on his phone, looking very worried. And with that, 3 days pass since his older brother disappeared from home. He tries calling Jung-won one more time, but the phone just rings. The call goes to voicemail and Yoon starts to suspect the reason for the disappearance. He then asks the gods directly if they have anything to do with this. A golden light appears in the middle of the room and a voice confirms his suspicions. At that moment, the man in the white suit appears and reveals that Jung-won is in the other world. Yoon doesn't look the least bit happy to receive this unexpected news. Then the man says the situation is complicated and needs to be explained. With that, he starts telling the story going back to the day of the accident 2 years ago. The old man reveals that on that day, the protagonist also went to the other world. Jung-won was very active over there and was known as the hero of melancholy. He wanted to go back home just like Yoon, but this was a burden for them. Yoon is confused and wonders how it could be a burden if he himself went back and forth for 2 years. But the old-timer reveals that Yoon was chosen by the world itself, not by the gods. The man explains that they don't know the problems that repeated visits can cause. That's why for the past 2 years they completely ignored Yoon's existence. But today it seems someone finally noticed his brother's presence over there. Yoon then asks if it was because of the clothes his older brother wore. The man confirms that the clothes were the trigger, but the real cause is something else. The younger brother gets curious and asks what else it could have been. Then the old-timer reveals that the real cause was our hero's retirement. Yoon gets frustrated and complains that it's only been 1 month since he actually retired. But the man explains that 1 month on Earth is equivalent to 300 days in the other world. Yoon wonders if someone was waiting for him to retire so they could make a move. The man confirms it, saying that several problems popped up right after that, and he states that his brother being taken is one of those major problems. With that, Yoon decides he just needs to find who's creating this whole mess. The man says they're trying, but something called contamination is making everything difficult. This contamination started 3 days ago, or 1 month in that world's time. The old-timer says a phenomenon of unknown cause began when Yoon returned, and at the center of it all is Jung Yoon, the hero of melancholy, and the contamination follows him. So Yoon suggests following the contamination to find his brother, but the man says no. Apparently this contamination doesn't just hide Jung Yoon's tracks. It also seems to affect the lords who govern that fantasy world. And not just them, but also the people who manage the whole place. The most serious part is that the contamination even affects the gods. With this, the younger brother understands that everything is connected to Yoon Won. To find him, he needs to solve the problems, and the man agrees with him. But Yoon gets annoyed and asks why he should clean up their mess. The man tells him to look at something and reveals a new danger. He says that the time on Earth and in the other world will soon synchronize. Then the man shows what his brother is doing at that moment. A horde of monsters and dragons emerges from a portal in the middle of the city. The city turns to chaos with monsters attacking, and the man questions him about his responsibility. The entire city is invaded by a swarm of flying and land-based monsters. Yoon asks in shock if his brother caused all this, and the old-timer confirms it. Our hero knows that creating a portal of this magnitude to Earth is impossible. With that, he says he'll solve the mess if they give back the powers he gave up. But the man explains that because of the contamination, they can't restore everything. The protagonist gets irritated and says that in the end they can't do anything. The man admits that right now there's nothing they can do, but tells him not to worry. Right after he reveals they've already prepared a contingency plan for the situation. And then the old-timer simply turns and leaves, leaving Yoon alone. The scene cuts to the streets where monsters are attacking and people are screaming for help. Seeing the chaos from above, he feels like he wishes he could help. But without his powers, it would be too dangerous to get into a fight like that. So our hero decides he'll take care of Earth after he brings his brother back. His first step is to go to the other world and find a way to get his powers back. With that, he leaps off the building and uses a burst of energy to propel himself toward the portal. Running through the streets, our hero finally finds the portal to the other world. He then stops and analyzes the situation with the monsters nearby. In his path were 2 orcs and a goblin blocking the way, but he believes that if he runs at top speed, he can easily lose them. The monsters notice his presence and start chasing after him. He keeps running as fast as he can to reach his goal. The protagonist knows that if he stops for even a second, it's game over. Reaching the portal, he dives in headfirst without even looking. But upon entering, he gets a very unpleasant surprise. An orc was right at the portal's entrance waiting for him. Yoon is completely frozen by this terrible timing. The monster wastes no time and lunges at him with its club. He looks up and wonders if he'll be able to dodge the attack. With a quick movement, he tries to stop and change direction. But unfortunately, the orc's attack hits him square on. Even after the hit, he celebrates because he managed to get through the portal. Now all he needed was to completely cross the gate. But the orc's blow hits him hard, sending him flying. And with that, his body is hurled into the portal. The monster is left behind as he's pulled to the other side. Yoon hits the ground hard, completely exhausted and out of breath. Panting, he gets up and wonders if he really made it through. He needs to hurry and get out of there before the other monsters catch up. But when he turns around, he realizes the portal has simply vanished. The protagonist is confused and doesn't understand why the gate disappeared. He thinks that this had never happened before on his other visits, so our hero wonders if this is also because of the contamination. Suddenly, a sword appears in his hand wrapped in a blue aura. The weapon falls to the ground, creating a small shockwave around it. And in the blink of an eye, he's surrounded by a horde of monsters. He thinks that a month ago this would have been possible, but now everything has changed. With that, he feels a sharp pain and notices his shirt is torn. The protagonist complains about his back hurting from the hit he took. Fortunately, he doesn't seem to be seriously injured, but fighting an orc would be tough. Our hero then remembers that he's just a regular person now with no powers. Suddenly, he hears a strange noise and goes on high alert, and then the younger brother quickly hides behind a rock. Crouching down, he tries to listen carefully to identify what's approaching. He counts the footsteps and realizes there are 4 creatures coming his way. From the light steps, he figures they must be small, not-so-strong monsters. Looking at the wall, he sees the shadows of a group with torches approaching. Peeking out, he confirms his suspicions and sees they're just some goblins. Yoon knows they're fast, but believes they're not impossible to defeat. He plans to keep his distance, but one of the goblins looks stronger than the others. But before he could react, one of the monsters surprise attacks and hits him. Even without his powers, he reacts fast and lands a solid kick on the goblin. The force of the kick sends both him and the monster flying away from each other. Then a larger creature with red eyes emerges from the dust. The scene reveals that the goblins were in some kind of ritual around an altar. Our hero gets up and wonders where they came from out of nowhere. He was sure there were no other paths to get to this spot. Suddenly, the protagonist notices something that leaves him completely shocked. Looking ahead, he wonders why there's no path to follow. The path he was supposed to take has simply vanished, and a goblin corners him from behind. The red-eyed monster takes advantage of the distraction and attacks with its club. With no way out, the younger brother curses, realizing he's in a real pickle. Even so, he braces for impact with a blue aura surrounding his body, and then he runs towards the goblin to attempt a counterattack. With a swift move, he crashes into the monster with all his might. The impact shatters the ground, and they both fall into a hole that opens up beneath them. Dust flies up from the hard impact he made on the cave floor. This startles the other goblins at the altar, and they begin to scream in anger. But the monster our hero attacks slowly gets up from the ground. Then the protagonist also gets up and grabs the fallen monster's club. At this, the goblin chief is completely confused by the younger brother's reaction. Without hesitation, the young man swings the club right at the monster's head. He keeps attacking the goblin with several consecutive blows without stopping, and with red eyes, he continues to mercilessly beat the creature. The sound of the blows echoes through the cave, grabbing the attention of the other goblins. The monster is utterly defeated with only a piece of its clothing left on the ground. Panting Yoon stands over the body of the defeated goblin. The creature lies on the ground lifeless and covered in fatal wounds. Our hero then picks up the club and slowly backs away from the spot. He turns and observes the other goblins who are still standing at the altar. Yoon finds it strange that their friend was taken out and they didn't even move. Our hero then sits down to rest a bit after the fight with the goblin. He realizes that this world is very different from what he used to know. Now, with no way out, the protagonist wonders how he's going to escape. The younger brother looks at the altar but doesn't see anything special about it. Even so, he decides he needs to check it out up close to be sure. So Yoon gets up and gets the attention of the other goblins at the altar. With the club in hand, he tells the monsters to take it easy. The protagonist stands there staring down the goblins guarding the strange altar. He assesses the situation and sees there are 4 goblins armed with spears. Since he's outnumbered, he knows he needs to end this quickly. With that in mind, he takes the first step towards the monsters, and then he charges at the goblins ready to attack. The creatures scream in anger and prepare for the upcoming fight. Our hero runs past them in the middle of the dark cave, and with a well-aimed swing of his club, he hits 2 goblins at once. With a leap, he dodges the monster's attack and prepares for the next one. And with the club in hand, he smashes one of the goblins right in the ear. The blow is so brutal that the creature doesn't stand a chance. But right after, another goblin approaches to attack from behind. The last 2 monsters get ready to advance on the protagonist. Then they run towards him, ready for battle in the cave. With that, our hero finds himself surrounded by the goblins and their sharp spears. He analyzes the situation and carefully prepares for his next move. Just then, one of the goblins tries to hit him, but he dodges and grabs the spear. With a firm grip, he takes the weapon from the monster to use to his advantage. Now armed, the young man stands in the middle of the goblins ready to fight. He uses the spear he just grabbed to defend himself from the attacks. With a quick move, he pierces one of the monsters with the weapon. The strike is a direct hit, and the goblin is defeated instantly with no chance to react. With a face full of rage, he continues to fight against the last monster. The protagonist continues to fight the last remaining goblin in the cave. The monster gets scared seeing the strength of its unknown opponent. With a shoulder bash, he hits the goblin square in the face. The impact throws the creature backward, leaving it completely stunned. Then he uses all his weight to pin the monster to the ground. The goblin's head is smashed against the floor with full force. With one last blow, he ends the creature's life once and for all. Exhausted, the protagonist lies down on the goblin's body to rest. He stays there for a while, catching his breath after the long battle. And with a touch to the ground, the younger brother slowly gets up. Our hero stands over the last defeated goblin in the cave. He walks towards the altar that the monsters were protecting so fiercely. The protagonist wishes for a portal to open so he can get out of there. With that in mind, he touches the golden chalice on the altar. And in that instant, a portal of light opens right in front of him. The portal takes him back to Earth and he wakes up a bit dizzy. Just then, a system screen appears and he receives a new item. The screen shows information about the forgotten chalice, which purifies all energy. The protagonist complains that the gods just complicate things instead of helping. Back on Earth, he's rescued by paramedics amidst the chaos. The city is a total wreck with monsters attacking everywhere. To find his brother, he knows he needs to find another portal. But he wonders if the other portals haven't already been closed. Suddenly, the man in the white suit appears and says he looks like he's been through the ringer. The man reveals he found a way to restore his powers and came looking for him. Our hero is happy and says that's annoyingly good news. The old-timer then explains that Earth now has an awakening system. Mana from the other world is leaking through the portals and onto Earth. This energy awakens the potential of people with the authority of the gods, and the people who stop the monsters from the portals are the awakened. Ewan asks how they're going to restore his power. The man then shows him a single-person gate key. With that, he also reveals that he has activated our hero's inventory. Yoon questions how his brother got through, and the old-timer says he used all his authority. That item would be essential to find Jung-won, but it wasn't enough. Our hero complains that the key alone wouldn't give him any power. Then the man says that for that, he must use the system. Yoon points out he's not an awakener, but the old man says that not even gods can go against the system's rules. At that moment, the man hands him a necklace which will transmit quests and rewards. With this, Yoon asks about the rewards, and the old man explains he'll be able to use his original powers in a limited way. The old man says they're in a hurry and can't answer all his questions. Then he sends the hero to the butterfly forest immediately and explains he'll tell him more later. Just then, a quest window pops up and he'll have to find the source of contamination in the butterfly forest. Night falls over the nearby village. A blue rift opens near the village. The protagonist steps out of the portal shrouded in a blue energy aura. After leaving the portal, he walks through the streets of an unknown village. With a serious look, our hero surveys the place he has just arrived in. Suddenly, a torch ignites in the middle of the darkness. The torchlight illuminates the protagonist's face as he notices something. Soon after, he's surrounded by several villagers holding torches. With that, the entire town square fills with people gathering to see him. Then the scene cuts to the butterfly forest dotted with points of blue light. Just then, one of the blue butterflies flies quickly through the woods. A man runs desperately and breathlessly through the dark forest. He tells himself he needs to hurry and tell them what he saw. But in the middle of his run, he trips on a root and falls to the ground. A blue energy catches him by surprise and he screams in pain in the process. The energy then drags him deep into the forest, giving him no chance to react. And at the end of the trail, a giant shadowy monster awaited him in the darkness. The man screams in pain as he's consumed by the strange blue energy. And then his scream echoes through the forest filled with blue butterflies. The scene cuts to the village where the residents are gathered around the protagonist. One of them apologizes for the misunderstanding, and our hero says it's normal to be suspicious. With that, the villager asks what he came to do in the forest at this hour. The younger brother then reveals that he's in the forest to find someone. At this, the villager guides him toward the entrance of the mysterious forest. Arriving at the location, he tells the protagonist that they've reached their destination. Then he points to the entrance and says that this is the butterfly forest. The villager offers to go with him, saying a guide would be very useful. He explains that the main ingredient for mana potions is the blue fluorescent mushroom, and he also reveals that this rare mushroom only grows in that forest. The place used to be safe and monster-free, but something suddenly changed. Now, whenever someone touches the mushrooms, the butterflies attack without mercy. The protagonist wonders if the contamination has affected the butterflies too. The villager grabs the protagonist's hand to stop him from touching the butterfly. He warns him that their wings are sharp and it's dangerous to touch them. Our hero then asks if the problem couldn't be with the mushrooms, but the guide says he already checked and found nothing wrong with them. With that, they enter the dark forest with only a torch for light. Suddenly, they are surprised by a monster that emerges from the trees. The protagonist complains that the guide said there were no other monsters there. But the villager says he didn't know, and the two start running through the forest. Soon after, they find the other villagers fleeing from something in the darkness. Our hero asks what happened to them and why they're running. One of the villagers reveals that they were attacked by the forest butterflies. The guide is shocked because they had never attacked anyone before. The man who was attacked confesses that he got greedy when he saw the mushrooms. He then asks about Siam, and another says they'll look for him when morning comes. The guide is furious with their decision and glares at them with a deadly look. The villagers suggest he come back in the morning, but the protagonist refuses the offer. He thanks them for their help but says he has no time to waste and needs to keep going. With that, he and the guide venture back into the dark forest alone. Suddenly, the younger brother stops and becomes alert to something strange. Further ahead, he finds a body on the ground covered in leaves and branches. Our hero can't believe the butterflies were capable of doing that. He asks the guide if he's sure there are no other monsters in the forest, but the man says this is the first time he's ever seen anything like it. The protagonist then starts to think carefully, analyzing the situation. Looking deeper into the forest, he asks the guide what's back there. The villager notices that the atmosphere of that place is very different. He explains that this is the deepest part of the forest which connects to the mountains, and it's also where the blue fluorescent mushrooms grow in large quantities. Our hero wonders if he'll find any trace of his brother around there. He then asks if there's a chance that monsters have come down from the mountains. The guide says that normally he'd say no, but now he's not so sure anymore. With that, the protagonist decides it's better for them to go check the area. The two then enter the deepest and darkest part of the forest. But even after searching, they don't find any clues about Jung-won. Looking at the mushrooms, our hero wonders if the contamination is really that strong. Suddenly, the guide stops and taps the protagonist's shoulder to get his attention. He points ahead and the younger brother asks what's up. The man looks at him with a serious and worried expression. He then reveals that there are far more butterfly droppings than usual. The protagonist asks if that's dangerous and the guide explains the situation. Normally, you only see a little bit of light scattered through the forest, but he had never seen such a dense concentration of light like that. The guide starts to back away from the spot slowly out of fear. Just then, he realizes the forest is changing in a strange way. and with that, a large wave of blue light begins to spread throughout the forest. With that, a wave of blue butterflies emerges and starts flying all over the forest. The protagonist then calls the guide by his name, revealing it to be Liam. He warns that it's going to get dangerous from here on out and tells the man to go back. But Liam refuses to leave and says he'll stay with him until the end of the journey. Our hero then warns that he can't promise he'll be safe in the forest. The two are surrounded by butterflies and Liam prepares for battle. With a focused gaze, the protagonist senses a presence approaching. He then warns his companion that something is coming their way. Suddenly, something starts moving quickly through the blue light of the forest. Liam is terrified by the situation and wonders what in the world is wrong with this forest. Just then, several spikes fly toward them at high speed non-stop. Right after, a giant spider-like creature appears and attacks them. But the protagonist seems to recognize the creature and says he didn't expect to see it. Then he reveals the monster's name, saying, "It's been a while, Exotica." The creature stares back at him with its giant eye and says he's changed a lot. The opening image shows the logo of the site that translated the manhwa. The creature introduces herself as Exotica, the administrator of the forest. A map shows the location of the butterfly forest and the Bosque Plains. She is also the queen of the butterflies, and our hero doesn't understand her presence there. With that, the monster attacks with her sharp, energy-filled claws. But the protagonist prepares for the attack and activates his temporary powers. He manages to block the blow, and the impact sends them both flying. Liam is shocked to see that he managed to defend against the creature's attack. Suddenly, the butterflies attack Liam, and he starts screaming in pain. The man tries to escape, but is surrounded by a swarm of blue butterflies. Our hero wonders why the creature's shell is so tough. The butterfly queen screams in rage and charges at him with everything she's got. With a powerful blow, she throws a blast of dirt and rocks at him. The creature then launches several spikes toward the protagonist, but he dodges all of them with agility and continues to advance through the forest. Our hero then realizes Liam is gone and wonders where he is. He remembers Liam with the sword and doesn't understand why he was carrying it. Suddenly, he sees Liam on the ground with the butterfly queen closing in. The protagonist runs to save his friend and pulls him out of the path of the attack. Liam is confused by the situation and doesn't understand what happened. The monster then slams the ground with her sharp, energy-filled claws. The impact kicks up a cloud of dust, leaving both of them injured. Liam starts coughing and slowly gets up with the protagonist's help. He asks what's going on, and our hero tells him to be quiet. The younger brother tells Liam to run as far as he can while he distracts the monster. The man is worried and asks what will happen to him, but the protagonist says he'll only get in the way if he stays there. He then tells him to go back to the village and warn the others about the danger. With that, he runs toward the butterfly queen to attack her. Our hero lunges at her, ready for the final showdown. With a determined look, he braces for the impact of the blow. The clash between him and the creature creates a huge explosion of dirt. In a flashback, the man in the white suit says he can use a little of his power. Our hero then asks how little power he would get back. With a smirk, the old-timer gives a very vague answer. He just says that the protagonist won't bite the dust with that amount of power. Back to the fight, the younger brother falls to the ground covered in dust. He complains that the power is really just enough to not get wiped out. Liam is worried and asks if he's okay after the explosion, but the protagonist yells at him to get out of there and flee the forest. The man is impressed by the size of the creature and curses. He then obeys and runs away, leaving our hero behind. The younger brother calls out to Exotica and wonders what happened to her. With that, he opens his inventory and looks for a specific item. The screen shows his inventory full of items for battle. With a leap, he propels himself forward with all his might. He advances with a blue energy sword in his hand, ready to strike. The butterfly queen shrieks in rage and prepares for combat. The protagonist dodges the creature's claws with a swift move. He manages to land a hit on the monster with his energy sword. Our hero then pushes off to deliver the final blow to the creature. With the sword in hand, he concentrates his energy for the attack. But even with the hit, the creature suffers no apparent damage. He complains that he's not managing to do any damage to the queen. Suddenly, he realizes the contamination is spreading faster. The blue mana begins to take over the entire surrounding forest. Confused, he wonders what's happening to this place. An intense blue light starts to glow from deep within the dark forest. Our hero suspects that this whole thing might be a huge trap, but he knows that as things stand, there's no way he can win this fight. He decides he needs to find and remove the contamination first. With a new plan in mind, he prepares for the battle against the monster. The creature attacks him with her claws, but he manages to dodge in time. The impact of the blow throws him to the ground hard, but he gets back up. With a face full of anger, he prepares for the counterattack. He runs toward the blue light that's shining from deep in the forest. The butterfly queen tries to stop him with her spikes, but he dodges them. The spikes destroy the surrounding trees, clearing a path for him. He reaches the source of the contamination and finds a pool of blue mana. The protagonist lies on the ground and dips his face into the pool's water. With this, he begins to absorb the energy of the contamination into himself. The butterfly queen watches him from a distance, not understanding what he's doing. He emerges from the pool with blue hair and a completely different look. The necklace the man in the white suit gave him begins to glow intensely. The jewel shines with a purple light and absorbs the power of the contamination. A system screen appears notifying him that he has found the source of contamination and completed the quest. And then a new mission appears: defeat Queen Exotica and recover the contamination.